Hi everyone, I'm Mark Hughes, and I'm going to chat with you for just a few minutes about what I think is one of the most important skills you can develop. And I'm going to tell you it's not a skill that a lot of people have. In fact, it's a skill very few people have because we have so much coming at us all day, so many things whizzing by every day, noise and demands, and people asking us to do things and to-do lists and all those kinds of things. I'm going to chat with you about the one activity that if you did it all the time would have the most profitable and productive impact on your business. So here's what I'm going to invite you to do. I'm going to ask you to go with me through an activity that I know will revolutionize the way you do work. Okay, I want you to pretend that I have the power to suspend everything you do for a whole week. You don't have to do a single thing except one thing. And this one thing that you're going to do all week, 5 days all day, is the one activity that if you did it all the time would have the most profitable and productive impact on your business. The one activity that if you did it all the time for a solid week would have the most productive and profitable impact on your business. Just think about that. What would that be? I know it's not realistic. I'm not saying you're actually going to do it. I just want you to imagine if you could clear everything out of your calendar except that one thing that would have the most profitable and productive impact on your business. What would that one thing be? What would it be? Now, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to be as honest with yourself as you can possibly be. As you think about that one activity that would have the most profitable and productive impact on your business, what percentage of your time are you currently spending doing that activity? What percentage? Is it 5%, 2%, 50%? What percentage of your time are you currently actually spending doing what we're calling your high-gain activity? Write that number down. All right, now, let's just face it. You're probably thinking, wow, that's not as much time as I'd like to be spending doing that profitable, productive activity. So here's the next question. What percentage of your time should you be spending? Could you be spending? What percentage of your time will you spend doing that critical activity? So now you have the percentage of time you're actually doing it and the percentage of time that you want or should be doing it. And that gap between the two is what I call the difference between aspiration and execution. And most of that gap lies in that split second of every now, the continuous moment in which we live, where we choose and decide what we do through stimulus and response. I want you to write down the percentage of time you need to be doing your high-gain activity this year. Write that number down. And then I want you to calculate the difference. So what is the difference between the amount of time you're actually spending and the desirable amount of time? My guess is, if you're like most people, you have at least a 10% gap between the amount of time you're currently spending doing that activity and the amount of time you should be spending on that activity. So why is that? I know you're intelligent. I know you want to do well. I know you get up every day intending to do a good job and to be productive and to sustain high performance, but somehow things get in the way, right? I mean, you're busy and people and things are coming at you constantly. Your phone alone has created all sorts of inattentive habits, and you keep thinking, I have to get to it. I have to get to it. And yet we just don't. And so I'm going to ask you and challenge you to commit to closing that gap of focused time and energy toward the thing that is most important for your future. Your high-gain activity, that activity that if you did it incrementally more, would have the most productive and profitable impact on your business. I want you to think about how we actually do close that gap between where we are and where we want to be. I'm going to ask you to do a thought exercise, so think through this. What would you have to believe in order to increase the percentage of time you spend in doing that activity? What would have to change in your belief system? What mindset adjustment would you have to make so that you increase the percentage of time you spend doing that activity? Then the second question is, what would you have to do? Simply, what behavioral changes would you actually have to put in place in your life in order for you to change the percentage of time you spend doing that activity? Mindset first, skill set always second. What would you have to believe first, and then what would you have to do to implement second? Stay grounded. Rome wasn't built in a day, so probably don't try to close the whole gap in one big move. Incremental steps, but you have to make a move to close that gap. Incrementalism is the key. Bite-sized changes, manageable moves, sustained over time, so that you achieve great results. Imagine what would happen if you went from 5% of doing that high-gain activity to just 10 or 15%, but sustained it over time. Even though you want to be at 30, understood. But you decide to go for 13 and sustain it, what would happen to your business? Great things. So your high-gain activity is the one activity that when you do it, has the biggest incremental impact, both profitably and productively, on your future. Starting today, I want to encourage you to spend the next 60 days in a concentrated effort to change your mindset and grow that high-gain skill set so that you incrementally improve your processes to achieve greater, more sustainable results. I'm Mark Hughes, a Staver-certified coach, interested in closing that gap from where you are to where you want to be.